on. How about now? Can you hear me now? All the little details we gotta work on. Yes, I can see that my stream is now you can hear me better. Sorry. So what I said at the beginning was that we have three lessons, and we start off with this is our third lesson on free candy. We're going to do three lessons on the same topic once Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so that way we have a full week of the same lesson. And I am still in the experimentation learning mode. So always looking for feedback in the chat. Please give me feedback and get with me later if you know me personally. This is mostly for beginners. It's for students and for people who want to teach beginners. Thanks, Murph. We should be good to go. So I see a challenge from Chess Wizard. We could start with that one. Murph, I know you offered to also play me tonight, so we can go ahead and do that afterwards. I'll play Chess Wizard first because he has a standard offer out here to play. So I'm going to accept his game, and then we are going to see what we could do as far as working on identifying free candy. So Chess Wizard 2 is one of my students, and he's doing pretty well. Right now he's 1543. So let me see if I can switch over to our game view. So I've added the clock, as you might see up here above me. There you go. And we'll see how this goes, okay? Something new for us to try. So 10-minute clock, and I'm including the clock. You have the chat, but all I'm going to do is look for free candy. So I'm going to try to play a straight out game. And one of the things that's interesting for me, learning wise, is if Chess Wizard is on the stream at the same time, he could be what people I've heard call stream sniping, where he could actually listen to my explanations and then maybe make choices at that point. So I usually play the Vienna, but I'm not going to this time because I want to play more direct and start creating free candy. So there's free candy right away, and I want to see if my student reacts to the offer of free candy. The fact that I'm attacking a piece that is not defended. So we'll see how that goes. So he does. He protects the piece right away. So there's no longer any free candy on the board. So we're playing nice and normal. I'm going to play the Italian. And so, no free candy being offered, no free candy being attacked. But I am developing, and we'll see what my opponent does. And he also develops likewise. I'm going to castle, put my king into safety, and then, unlike what I would normally play, I would probably not even play this line normally. I'm going to try something different and play a Ponzianzi type of setup where I be a little bit more aggressive, and I'm going to try to make more free candy. So now he's attacking my pawn, creating free candy. So it makes me want to change my mode, right? I want to do the Ponziani, create more of an attacking opportunity for free candy, but I'm going to have to play solid. He's playing well. I didn't. I was hoping he would just castle, but he didn't. So I would have had a chance to try to set up the Ponzianzi. There's other ways I might have done it, like maybe using the knight, but I chose not to. So right now there is no free candy, but there is a little trick where I could take, which I could have done last move, knight takes back, and then I could push pawn, but my bishop would be free candy in this situation. So I want it to be fun. I can't pin bishop run back. Would two, I might just work knight here. I do want to also develop a knight to do so that I have some other options. But normal square for the knight is E3, which is going to go with C3. Played playing a classic setup of developing my piece. Opportunity. You may choose to pin my knight in return. So wait and see. I do have the first move, so I have a little ahead of him. Momentum. So he takes the bishop, free hand, being out in the on master, then he could do the reciprocal attack on mine. So I think I will for fun. We'll see what happens here. I've now attacked his knight twice. In the piece as well, at least as my students will learn again. Right now, all I'm looking for is to see if he notices free candy and if I notice free candy. That's all we're looking at. And right now, this is still not free candy. But I am threatening to take. The queen couldn't take back because he'd lose the exchange. he would have to take back with the pawn and ruin his king side. So there's no free candy still. All the way through this game, we've only had free candy momentarily in the two center pawns. Again, that's all I'm focusing on, and he's reciprocating and doing the same thing back to me. I get to go first, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to start off with the check. It's kind of forces him to make a decision sooner than I do. So we'll see how he responds. So he takes with the pawn, which is logical. Can't take with the queen. Couldn't just let me have it. And now I have to decide. Don't want him to cause takes my bishop. So I'm going to go here and threaten to win the exchange. Okay, so now all I'm threatening is the exchange, and he can ignore it and take my knight and do the same thing I just did to him. But I think it's going to be a little different. So he moves over, and now I get to threaten his bishop. And if I threaten the bishop, when he takes my knight, I take back with the pawn, his bishop gets to take. So we're not crazy about that option. But I do like the idea of sliding my king over one so that there is no check when he takes. But I'm okay with him taking anyway, because now I'm going to be able to chase his bishop either with my pawn, or I can chase his knight, because I kind of want him to take. If he takes and I take back with my pawn, doing the same thing he did, his bishop has to move. But then I get to throw in a check with the rook. Depending on if his bishop comes back here, his bishop will be able to protect, and so it'll make a little bit of a different dynamic. So what we were just talking about is happening, and now the bishop is technically free. He has to move it. He could here and attack my rook, but that's a mistake. So that's a mistake, which is our first mistake that we see that he's made so far, in my opinion, because if his bishop had went back here, then when I go here with check, bishop would be able to go here, block the check, and kind of solidify his position. But instead, he put his bishop here, which unfortunately allows me this check. And when I do that check, his king only has one square to go to here. And that all by itself, in my opinion, makes it worth it for me to do what I'm doing. And then I could threaten to take this pawn, but I don't know if that does a lot for me yet. But I do have a check here with my bishop. And after I check here with my bishop, I could be threatening mate. So let's start off with the check, and we'll worry about the next part next. We know he has to move here. That's his only, not legal move. He can give away his bishop, but we totally anticipate he won't be giving away his bishop. We can also win his queen. I can, after he moves here, if I put my bishop back here for check, his king has no choice. I get to then do a discovered attack. Discovered attacks are one of those things that beginners don't see a lot, or they don't see through. They don't notice it, I should say. One of the things I'll ask you guys is this mic better? I got a new mic for Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone. Sorry, forgot that. It's Christmas. Merry Christmas. I got a great gift. My daughter came home for a surprise visit. Woohoo! But I also got a new mic for Christmas. So hopefully this mic works well. I am looking forward to getting a new lighting system so that you won't see reflection in my glasses. I'm scared to not go with the glasses because things are just a little blurry. So I'd rather have the glasses. But anyway, so again, I get the check. His king is forced to go back. And then I could take here with check, discover check. His king has to move here, here, or put something in between. And when he does that, I get to win the queen. So that looks good. That looks very good. We have to check the other possibilities. So this part isn't what I'm teaching right now. All we're teaching is free candy, but understand that when we get to the further levels in a couple of weeks, when we get the more advanced lessons, we're going to talk about combinations and looking for candidate moves. And in this case, my candidate moves are check, take here, win the queen. The other candidate move is to take here, threaten checkmate on the move. So that's an interesting one too. But if I take here and threaten checkmate, the rook can come over. Even though I could take the rook, his queen would take back. I could win the queen that way, but I would have given up a bishop and a rook for the queen. That might be worth it. But then that slides this rook all the way over. Don't know if I like that. So I would have to think that through. This is where I'm not an international master, but we're also playing not a really fast game. 10 minutes is not that fast. We have time, so I can think a little bit here. But it is 10-0. I don't have an increment. So I always have to keep that in mind. So again, threaten mate. Let's see what he could do to stop mate. Looks like the only real thing he could do is to put the rook here. So the question for me is, if I make him put the rook there, do I end up better than just winning the queen through the bishop tactic we talked about? Do I want to keep this bishop and this rook and win the queen? I think so. I think that might be better than trading the rook at all, and then having his rook come down here and his bishop getting a check and a discovered attack of his own. So we're going to go with the discovered attack plan. So we'll say check. He'll move. He'll have no choice. I can pre-move because he really has no choice. He only has one legal move. I'm going to pre-move. The bishop takes the pawn to hopefully help me with my time. One of the things that's new for me is talking about my game while I'm playing it. So analyzing the game for you guys is new for me. So let's make sure I'm not missing an easy mate here or anything. Nope, I can't get the rook in there yet, so we'll take here. Okay, so we've taken the queen. He doesn't have to take my bishop. He could take this pawn and threaten my rook. So that's definitely an option, which I'm not really worried about. He could actually take the rook and allow me to put my queen here. It would be interesting, but probably problematic for the long haul. I do like attacking this pawn. All right, so he took. So now I want to attack this bishop and get this bishop out of here. I might be chasing him back to a good square, but at the same time, I don't want to give up this pawn. So this pawn looks more valuable to me just for opening up the game, and I want to get my queen off the back rank. Now I could go to the E2 or D2. I like D2 better because here I get to find a way for my queen to get in while also protecting the pawn. So this is going to be, I think, a little bit better. So you guys can ask questions in chat, by the way. Of course, don't give me hints and ideas, but you definitely can ask questions during the game. Feel free. I'm going to try to learn how to watch chat at the same time as play. Although, as you can see, it's cost me some time. But anyway, so this is one threat. I'm protecting the pawn, and I've now allowed my rook onto the open file to be hopefully joined by the second rook. This pawn is still weak, so you might decide to get this bishop back here to block the bishop. So I can either trade or bring it back because I'm okay with taking this way. I don't need to trade bishop, although I am up material. So normally when you're up material, you're good to trade. That's what we want to do. All right, so interesting. Puts his king out actually where he can be attacked. And I don't think this is good at all, except I really don't like after the check, his king moves, and then I don't really have a way to get at his king yet. I would have liked to get to his king. But, rather than maybe leave this pawn hanging, but with the check, this one, another thing I find from beginners just they check a lot, right? They want to make checks. So rather than say check, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to attack this pawn twice. See if he sees the long range free pawn. So now that's a free pawn. This is a free pawn. Those are both free candy right now. And so will he bring his bishop back and protect? Will he bring it? Okay, so he did. So he blocks. Now, my bishop is not free candy. The only question again is, do I want to allow it the trade? Do I want to double up my rooks or do I want to just take? If I take, he has to take with the king, which allows me to get rid of another piece. We like getting rid of pieces when we're ahead. So his king has to do the taking, so we're going to take. This is still free candy. This was not anymore because it was protected by the bishop. But now the king has to take. And once the king takes, I do see now that I can put my queen here and say check, and he's only got 2 squares to go to. This pawn will fall, and then this pawn is at risk. So I'm kind of liking that, and losing this pawn right now doesn't seem to be a problem. So let's go with that check. And running out of time, so I'm going to have to play a little bit faster, think a little, talk less, think more. I'm okay even with taking here because the rook doesn't really hurt me because I can just move my queen away. All right, so that was unexpected because I didn't think he'd do that, to tell you the truth. So I could just still take, and I will. We like taking. This allows, again, the queen to come here, and we own this file. We already own this rank. Sorry, we own this rank, not file. We already own the rank, so now we own it a little bit more convincingly. This is the only free candy on the board right now. Nope, not true. So we have two pawns that are free candy. I took the one. And so even at this point in the game, he's down a queen for bishop. He still has to be aware of what's free candy for him to take and for me to take. So obviously he didn't want me taking that free candy, but he's missing something. The rook takes all these squares away. So the queen has none of those squares. This pawn takes away this square, and this pawn takes away this square. Right now, his king has no legal moves. Again, this is a little bit more advanced. Right now, we were only worried about free candy. So because he has no legal squares, if I can throw a check in and not change the status of no legal squares, it would be mate. So the queen can come here, protected by the pawn. Can't put anything in between because we're only one square away from the king, right? So only one square away. He can't take my queen. So the only thing he can do is move, and he can't move to any square. So this would be checkmate. All right, excellent. Thank you, Chess Wizard, for playing that game. Murph, if you want to challenge me to a game, and you can pick the time, and we will play one more game. And I've gone over an hour every lesson, but today maybe we'll go under an hour. We'll see how it goes if we get some matches. So Murph has challenged me to a game now, and Chess Wizard asked me for a rematch. I'm going to tell him thanks, but in a second, hopefully he follows us on the chat. That would be great if we can get him to join us on the chat. All right, Murph, it's your move, and we're again are going to be. I'm going to be looking for free candy. So Murph, I know is on the stream now, so we'll see if Murph doesn't say. I don't know how he does that, but I'll that. I normally would play with Murph is straight up E4, E5, but I want to see about how he might handle something a little different. So I'm going to play the French. Again, I don't, he's one of my students, and we'll talk about this next week is should you learn openings? And what should you do when you're first beginning to learn how to play after not giving away free candy? What free candy take, and he did. So good. No candy on the board. And we both have it going. He did not need to have free cards. I'm trying to get him. You'd have to learn only solid openings. You're going to be trying to memorize. I can also block the pawn, and I could have blocked it with the bishop. I choose to block it with the pawn, although it takes away the best square for the knight, because now the bishop has to leave, and so I get a tempo back. Not a big deal, but I'm also okay since I had d5 in play. I'm okay with this long diagonal setup. My bishop is going to be free. This is my bad bishop. So I'm okay with my bad bishop because he's not in the fray anyway. All right, so bishop move back. I need to develop. I need to get my pieces developed. There's really nothing else going on right now. He can castle next move, so I want to be ready in case he castles that I'm not going to be stranded with my king in the middle. I got to get ready to castle also, so I'm just going to develop my knight. All right, so looking at that, I'm also looking at later pinning because now the bishop can't block the pin. So if I can pin this knight, that pin's going to stay there for a while. And he'd have to push both pawns to get rid of my pin. So now he's freed his bishop. He can pin my knight. So the difference here is I'm going to pin his knight first. There's still no free candy to be had, but I get to pin his knight first and see how he reacts. And it's good for me because he has to figure out how to deal with it, right? And his bishop can't interpose to block to stop the pin. So the pin's pretty solid. I feel good that the pin will survive. I do have, you guys might have said, oh, you have a check and you'd attack the bishop. And that's a double attack. So I could attack the queen, king, and the bishop. But he has many ways to stop it. He could stop it with the knight, which protects the bishop and develops a piece. And my queen would be developing pretty early and not really getting anything done. because the knight would just block the pin, and my queen would be out there doing nothing. He could also push the pawn because the queen would then protect the bishop. Nice little discovered protection. And so I don't like that move either. So good. Now he develops the knight. No problem there. I have choices. I can come all the way out here and try to pin his knight. But this one, he has a bishop to interpose. Not only does he have a bishop to interpose when I come here, but he could bring his queen here and say check on the long file. And then I'm either going to have to bring back my bishop, bring back this bishop, try to plop this knight in here, which is not a bad play. That knight could go there. So if I pin and he, instead of blocking, brings his queen, I can drop the knight in. But if he does bring the bishop, I'm not so happy. So I think either way, I'm not going to start off by pinning his knight to castle. So the question always comes up: do I want to castle king side or do I want to castle queen side? So I have both options there. I could develop the knight first, castles, and I there, not castling early. So I'm going to develop this knight and give myself an option to castle queen side versus automatically going king side. I think I'll go with that. By the way, if I had pinned, he could have also just castled out of the pin. All right, so he castles. So now he's threatening check down the long file and possibly at that point give me a little bit of a harassment. I think I will just block the file first and develop the bishop. Also, in case he decides to pin, there won't be a pin. So again, playing really basically, and there's no free candy being offered anywhere yet. Murph is playing well. His rating is not as high as you would think it should be. I and but he's actually his rating I think does not reflect how good he is right now. He's been playing pretty well. I think he's been doing well in his lessons, and he's got a lot of good insights to the game. Really like working with him. So let's see what he does now. This was kind of no choice. I either have to maintain the pin or I have to back away. And by maintaining the pin, I'm encouraging him to push this forward, and that would be a free piece. Now, granted, I'd lose the exchange, right? I could take with the knight, he could take with the pawn, and I could take back. I would have 2 pawns for the knight. So I'm down 1 point, but his king is open. So that pawn would be free candy if he pushes it. But again, most people don't take it because they're not ready to give up the exchange. I might do it just for fun and to see how he reacts, opening up his king. I could then follow up with the H pawn, and allowing the rook to start looking like he's coming in. But okay, so he attacks the knight. It's not pinned, but he's attacking the knight. So I can still move this knight. I can move it here. I can leave it where it is. I could threaten his bishop, and then I'd have a place for my bishop to go away, and I don't have to do this trade. If I'm going to look later at doing this move with the pawn, I don't really want to castle. I want to leave my rook here, which would be dangerous normally, right? Not the norm for safety measures. So we're going to start off with just putting a question to that bishop and saying, what you going to do? Are you going to stay around or are you going to leave? So now we are definitely threatening the exchange, not free candy. He definitely didn't threaten free candy on the knight because it was protected 3 times. Remember the X-ray through the bishop. So he takes, and now I have a big choice. Do I take with the knight, put the knight on its best square, or do I take with the bishop? Well, if I take with the bishop, he gets the check and maybe makes me have to do other things than I want. While why not develop the knight? Noting that there's a discovered attack if he were to take this pawn. Well, if I take with the knight, not only can I take with the queen, I can take with the knight, and so I don't have to worry about taking back with the pawn, so that doesn't work for him. Please note that this knight in general, and this would be again much later lessons though, this knight is kind of stopped here and D or D5 openings that the pawn wants to go to 5 or in conjunction with this D pawn. So I try not to put my knight to D4. I try knight to the pin, the vertical pin, or the pin on the file of the bishop, saying, now you can't move your bishop, but I can castle. And now that I've already made a hole for my bishop, I'll go ahead and do the castle. So again, this is not a free piece at all. He'd be losing the exchange if he were to take, because my queen is protecting it. So it is protected, not free candy. All right, this knight has a great little outpost, but will he ever get there is the major question of the day. If he pushes here, I very might take those 2 points for the one and keep this pin on the knight and just see how that plays out. That might be fun with the bishop being open. All right, so Murph moved his knight back, looking to reposition possibly, I'm guessing, or to get this pawn out because, right, I told you that pawn likes to move. Notice this bishop is stuck out here doing nothing, way off to the side of the board and attacking a pawn that's protected by a pawn. That bishop is doing nothing. I don't want to do anything to encourage that bishop to move. I want to leave that bishop there for all time. But what I did notice here is that I could take this knight because the knight that he moved blocks his queen. So this was never free. It was protected twice. But he always could take back with the queen, which wouldn't ruin his pawns. So now I can take with the bishop, and he has to take back with the pawn if he wants to take back, which he should, and therefore creating doubled pawns. Doubled pawns are weaker than non-double pawns, right? Than pawns that aren't doubled. So since he'll have weaker pawns, it might be worth it on its own. And this is where we haven't talked about. This is, again, more advanced, but I'm explaining to you why I'm going to go ahead and take here and double up his pawns. Now, with those double pawns, the knight still, right, is blocking this rook. So I can ignore the knight's position for the moment, but I really don't want to ignore it as much as I want to fight for this square. That's a beautiful square. If I can get my knight, my bishop working in tandem there. Remember, I have a knight and a bishop on this side of the board by his king, which is now open, and his bishop is not anywhere to be seen. So I want to get my pieces into the game as fast as possible. I'd like to get my queen here. That'd be a great square. Or here, maybe. I want to get my knight in here. That'd be great. But I can't do either one because right now my bishop's in the way. So I'm going to move my bishop out of the way, hitting this nice long diagonal now. I like that nice long diagonal. And it gets out of the way for my queen to be able to move next. And it doesn't stop him from putting a pawn here, but it does stop him from putting his knight here. So that knight has just now become a little bit less active. So he could come here. And if he comes here, then he'd be attacking these squares versus the other. All right, so now we get the pawn here. Again, you could have tried to go all the way here to fight in the center. When you have a battle on the wing, it's nice to fight in the center to kind of distract or pull the attention away. So my thought was I could go here with my knight and then reposition it here. And repositioning the knight is something I'm even focusing on new. For me, it's something I'm trying to focus on new. I haven't focused on that in the past. It's not something I looked for in the past. I'm trying to get better myself. And one of the ways that I'm trying to get better is to look for that opportunity. And from here, that would attack both of those pawns, and that would be a beautiful place for the knight. So usually you think just go forward, go forward, go forward. So put the knight here, then he's threatening to come here. But if he comes there, he gets traded off, and maybe something happens, maybe it doesn't. So if I go here, it keeps the pawn from pushing because I'd have two pieces attacking it. So that's a plus. But maybe better is to come here, to reposition here, and attack more squares. Now, so let's think that through. If I come here, though, the pawn gets to move one. Now my knight can't get to the square we wanted it to be at. It's annoying. I wouldn't be able to get my knight here because that pawn would be there. It'd be protected once and only attacked once. I could get my queen out here immediately, right? That was one of the benefits. And get my queen here attacking this pawn twice now, the queen and the bishop, if he were to push the pawn. And that might work fine because then if he protects the pawn with the queen, which is the only piece that he could get to protect the pawn, then he loses this pawn. So I think it's okay to take the time to go this route. He can't go here to stop my knight from coming back because that's just free candy. And if he goes here, I get to put the queen here, double attacking. So I like it. So having analyzed those two choices, now I only did two candidate moves, but if you're looking at the board, this I think it's for me it was clear that's where I wanted to go. I mean, only other thoughts were maybe pawn pushes, and I don't like pushing pawns. I'd rather put my pieces into better squares. Now we have all our pieces over here. Look, repositioning the bishop so the bishop can get back into the game. Excellent job, Murphy, of saying, you know what? I pushed that pawn not just to shore up the center, but I want to get my bishop back into the game because he was down a piece. He had one less piece than I did because of his positioning. So now I can put the knight here, attack both pawns, and his queen can protect both pawns with one move, and he'd be done with me. I do have this pawn move here to keep that bishop from getting into the game. Right, the bishop is having trouble getting into the game. That would keep him out of the game. I can move the knight here. I mean, my queen here with check. He has a move here, here, or he can block with his knight, and that kind of stops all my fun too. So I'm having trouble getting my fun started the way I really wanted my fun started. But I'm thinking we're going to start with this move. So this move attacks both pawns. This pawn obviously, not obviously, but attacks off as a fork. So we have some other opportunities here. So I think we need to look at that possibility and keep that going. All right. So in that case, I believe his reply has to be king to here. And this is part of what you want to do when you're playing is think moves ahead. So instead, Murph says, you know what? I'm going to ignore everything you're doing. I'm threatening you with mate. Murph just says, I'm threatening you with mate. The queen is going to be protecting everything. Queen is going to be protecting everything. Your attack means nothing to me. That's what Murph is telling me. I got you. You're in trouble. You can't stop me. All right, that's what it looks like. So let me look it through because I can still say check. Because it's check, he has to respond. If he comes up to attack my knight, I would love to come here and say check and win the queen, but his knight just takes me off. I just take back, and then he gets to say checkmate. That's not good. He says check. He could come here. Again, the bishop is stopping him from coming to that square. And then I could follow up with the queen. And if I follow up with the queen, he actually could take my knight and win the knight. Then what do I do? Do I have a mate? Queen can come here. His king only has one square to go back to, which is here. My queen can come here and say check. He could go here. I could go here and say check. Then the knight gets to block, and I no longer have mate, and I no longer have this knight, and I'm down a piece. So frustrating as it may seem, I don't see a way for me to win all that, and he still does get to threaten this. But I think I don't have much of a choice. Second, so good thing is Murph gives us a +5. So at least with Murph's increment, I can talk maybe a little bit more. So now I'm stopping the threat of mate. I could have done this one also, which would have been interesting, but I could have done that. So Murph pushes the pawn. The pawn is going to be free candy if my knight moves, and I get to move with check. So Murph missed that, I think. If he had pushed this pawn, it was protected twice, so he would have been safer. But now I get to move with check and do a discovered attack on what is now free candy. It wasn't free candy before, but he did put it out in harm's way. So I get to take it for free. So I'm liking that option for me. If he had pushed this pawn, he would have had two pieces protecting it. I mean, one piece protecting it, actually. But still, my knight would have to find a place to go, and it couldn't have gone where it did. So we're going to take this pawn, and now we're threatening mate here, right? So that's free candy. Free candy, and it's going to be hard because he has to find a way to protect that. Now, you can put the knight in front. That works. And I could just take it with my bishop. He could bring his queen over, and that takes away any of these threats of mate. And I could bring my rook over and say, go away, queen, and he's looking like he's in trouble because this free candy is very hard to protect. And if I take with the queen, it's mate. So we're threatening mate and the fact that it's free candy. This is free candy technically because he has two pieces attacking it. Remember the X-ray rule. And I only have one protecting it, but obviously that would be giving up the queen for two pawns. And it still wouldn't stop the mate on the next move. If he took first with check, I took back. He couldn't even take with the bishop because he'd still be mated here. So interesting problem. I probably should personally, because I'm not a master like the ones I like watching. I can't talk this fast, so I definitely should at least make sure I have a 5-second increment. I can at least make sure I'm low on time. I can make decent moves versus making horrible moves. That's the problem with playing fast. Every one of the people I like to watch, Eric Rosen, Gotham Chess, and John Bartholomew, will tell you that if you want to get better, don't play bullet. Don't even play blitz. Play 15-minute games. I tell all of my students the fastest they're allowed to play a game is 15 minutes when they're trying to get serious. And the reason is you need to have time to think. You won't make good moves if you're playing super fast. And so you don't want to play super fast. You want to play solid moves. You need to take your time. You need to be able to slow down and take your time. So 10 minutes, though, is pretty good. Plus 5 seconds is pretty much the equivalent of a 15-minute game. And as you can tell, we're up to 40 minutes of this lesson with only 2 games. All right, so the queen comes here. It does protect. It does stop the mate. But if you remember, I said that I can bring my rook over and once again threaten the queen. I'm playing one of the things we will talk about, and I might do that next week as the lesson, is playing chase the queen and playing chase the knight, getting a check. Now chase the queen. Valuable chase piecing this. And so when you're paying attention to free next week, I like listening to Gotham Chess, and he talks about checks. You should look for first thing you should look for is are there any checks? Then you look for any captures, and so playing checks would be, to my mind, is saying and pieces so that I'll lose my pieces. I want to make sure that when I play chase the king, that it's improving my position, not hurting my position. All right, so now Murph is getting lower on time because he's trying to find a way to stop from being mated and at the same time keep his queen. By the way, this move, if I were to take back the queen, that would not be the wise choice. The wise choice would be chess to take check. So this is free candy. He put the queen here to stop the free candy. It is back to being free candy because he moved away. So I do not need to play chase the queen anymore, which I could try the things, but I just have checkmate. So I'll just play here for checkmate and good game. So a good game, well played. You can't. Yes, you can. No. Okay. So I have it automatically set in the preferences in Lichess, which is what we use. You can set it up so that it automatically says good game. You should say. Oh, thanks LLMP. I was watching my clock. It's a little hard to watch the clock while you're talking. But I was watching it at the same time. All right, we have time for another game. I don't know if like Chess Wizard left the game, left the site, and look at LLMP as my students. I'm gonna see if I can challenge him. See if we can get a challenge to him, and I'm gonna try to challenge him because he's a beginner below Chess Wizard. So I anticipate there will be a lot more opportunities to see free candy on the board, but I just didn't do a good job of finding him and lining him up again. If I can get this working. Okay, so challenging him to a game, not to anti-chess. We want to do standard, time fine, 10 minutes. Make a random color. We'll see if my student will play. Don't know if he will. We'll hope that he'll play. I don't think he knows I'm. In fact, I know he doesn't know. Streaming right now. We're going to be introducing this to all my students next week. I like to watch your. I don't think it's cheating, but I don't think my opponent has someone telling him to watch his clock. But it's harder, right? Because you're doing two things, and you're trying to teach, help, talk through the lesson, give at the same time you're trying. All right, doesn't look like D-Gear is going to play. So I will try. Oh, LLNP is on. I don't know if he wants to. So anybody challenge me first, Lemurf or LLNP, we can play and you can try to not pay attention to what I'm streaming at the same time. Or who knows, maybe D-Gear will actually start playing, but I think he's probably logged in, but not at. Anybody else want 15 minutes? Give it a game. That'd be great if you want to. Thanks, Murph. I appreciate that. Don't know if he's actually at the computer. Anybody else want to try? Oh, I do have a challenge. Oh, there it is. And let's see. This is the one. Better to play and than to than. All right. Or if you have white this time, you stream at the same time, but we'll see how you do as far as as less candy. So that time I played the French with Murph. He's got black. He's got white again. I could do the French, but it will be nice and we'll something different. We're going to play e5, and we're going to see again how well. So he's attacking, free candy. I need to protect. Let's just play very straightforward. Again, very standard play. Actually, I don't remember if I just played Murph the French. Did I? Yeah, I did. That was, I believe I was. Yes, I had black. Yes, we played the French and he exchanged the pawns. Yes. All right, it's coming back to me. Roy Lopez, no problem here. He's threatening the knight, so therefore the pawn would become free candy. Not free candy yet. Cases, which is not Roy Lopez. I'm going to play it just different. I'm going to develop the bishop. Still no free. This isn't free candy unless he takes here. Then it becomes candy. So as of this moment, it's not free candy, and we're just playing a nice solid opening. Both of us are developing pieces, and nothing is really left hanging yet. No free candy. All right, so I'm going to attack the pawn and create the first free candy attack. A second free candy. This was the first. Ah, sorry, LLMP. I missed your challenge. Yes, maybe next week. So he still has the threat of taking, would take back, take, and then I would have to try to attack. And in this case, I'm going to have a hard time saving it. And we don't have to go into all the details, but because now, where before I had threats of this pawn and this knight, if he were to have taken, I don't have that anymore. All right, so Murph is simplifying. I was just going to move really fast, but let me explain. So Murph simplifying. I have one back. I have a good in-between move where I could attack something of good value. There's no six there. I just need to take back, and I'm going to take back towards the center. I had no choice anyway because I pushed this pawn. So now at this point at the game for you more advanced players like LLMP, what am I doing now? Well, I need to queen side. I have a big open file. I do have this file to play on. I have the only file to play on. Double pawns are a weakness because it's hard to defend, but it also creates a semi-open file. So I'm going to castle, and then I'm going to look to see how I want to develop this bishop. I have two major pin the knight. My opponent lets me. Remember, I did that last time, and it caused him problems because he made the mistake of moving the knight here, allowing me to take, and he had to double up his pawns. And their double up pawns exposed. And if he tried to get his king out of the way and get his rook on an open file like I did against Chess Wizard in the first game, that might be a little bit more dynamic and powerful. So good. He says, no, 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 you can't pin my knight because I'm putting my pawn in your way. You can't do that. And then enticing him to come after me with his knight. I could push the pawn just like he did, keeping his bishop out, and then get my bishop up here, which I kind of like. Solid, most solid. We're worried about just making good moves and not leaving free candy. So now when I do this, his knight can't come here to harass me, and then I get to put my sacrifice, and it's always fun. The sacrifice are fun. I like watching what's his name? GM Williams, Simon Williams. Hold on, what does they call him? Something. Ginger, the Ginger GM. I really like his. It's not for kids, so I do not recommend him on my stream. But it is fun. He is fun and dynamic. I say he's not for kids only because of the original language. On YouTube, I'm trying to, because I teach motors. I mean, very much so beginners with the piece. And remember, so I mind forward. Then doesn't make any sense anymore with the rook having moved off the file. I'm going to hopefully keep the bishop because they can't move. Pawn and see to keep bishop because his bishop equal rook. He doesn't have to double his pawns. My bishop, because then I'll have triple pawns and back. Too many choices. Could have went here. I should have thought a little longer. I think it's better because pins against beginners because they can get flushed or no, like, oh, what to do? My piece is pinned. None gets put back. He pushes here, and I end up in the same square now. But then his pawns are kind of really coordinated, and they're only there because they chased a bishop. So that has that benefit. I would have normally hit chess to entice them weakness. If he takes, I have a choice. I can take back towards the center, keeping the pawns and the weird dynamics going on. Plus, I can then free my rook and to attack this diagonal. So this is really interesting. Good move by Murph. So he's straight attack my bishop. And if he does, though, I can just take. So again, this pawn would be kind of misplaced. But I can also winning the knight now, which would be fun, right? Let's see what he does. So because he can't this pawn anymore because he overextended this one. Remember, the problem with a pawn is if you push it, it can't go backwards. So he can never put his pawn back here to support this pawn push. And so now the knight to the rook. Do things like this, and that's okay because I still can come back here. If he ever gets this, he can go here, and then I can still take the bishop, and he still has this pawn onto the open file and attack. So this is extremely advanced discussion that I just had with myself, and I don't expect you to do. So he broke it. I'm going to now develop my queen, connect rooks. So really want to connect my rooks. I don't see any place that I'm worried about him moving the knight with any tempo. I would just take the bishop, and I would when I do so. And again, his knight doesn't have any place to go with tempo. A good square to go to with tempo. I could just take the bishop. So as long as he doesn't have anything easy to attack, right, I'm good. And the problem with this, if I had this bishop here, would be that simple attack. So now with the knight, interesting. If I take here, you could take with the knight, you could take with the queen. I'm setting up to do a sacrifice over here. I don't want him taking my bishop before I do my sacrifice. Which actually be good for Murph. That would kind of like shore up his position and make things rock steady. I didn't think about the fact if he pushes this pawn, my bishop is unfortunately hanging out here in no man's land. My bishop could get trapped. So we'll see if he notices that my bishop can get trapped. So we'll see what he does. On hindsight, I should have just taken the bishop. And then I could have thought about doing my sacrifice. Still don't like the knight being over here, though, to stop my sacrifice. It takes away a lot of the fun. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if I can I can see that I don't have a lot of good tactics. After the pawn push, bishop would have to move to one of these two squares, and then he has pawn pushes to keep that bishop out. I'm going to probably have to end up sacrificing on this. All right, so he didn't, but he's setting up to try to finish. Right, so all I did here was I stopped it so he can't come my bishop. My bishop could have been trapped. Pushed here, bishop wouldn't have had any, whatever squares he went to, he would have been able to follow up with pawns. I think I would have eventually have to acquiesce and go for this pawn sacrifice here. The king would have to take back. I'd get a sack a second piece. Queen would take back. And I'd been given up two pieces for 3 pawns and an open king. Rook would slide over so easily. But at least this, now that knight wouldn't even get knight in here, though, quickly with a check. Both of those squares would be attacked. It would be interesting. It could still be. I can still take queen. The knight of mine coming in and getting some mate of its own. But that knight still sits. You can be. So we'll see what happens. Attacking for candy is the major tactic that we're on right now. Is we just want to make sure we're not leaving free candy, and also that our opponent doesn't. We're trying to get him not to leave. If I take, he takes, I take back. If his knight would want to come here, I can just take that knight off because on his pin. So, because we're in the business of free candy, that was technically free candy because it's 2 pieces. The whole idea of this lesson and this game we're playing to identify aggressive, even if not, it's not solid, it's dubious. What is that when you not not really, it's not really the best idea. Okay, so he did not like the idea that I would take. So I can bring the queen here, but that doesn't do me anything. I can attack the piece. We like that because now I just got my, the free piece. Take it back. Could have went here with the knight. The knight would have been interesting, attacking here, and he put the bishop. Just take the bishop. I'm not worried again about him taking. So I'm not worried about him taking. I can take back with the knight. What to do? This feels like there should be something better for me. That knight's not greatly placed. I want to put the pawn there. Here I would love it, but it's not. Would love to have my pawn there. That doesn't make this moment. He can't put it there. Okay. So the question is what to do. Moving the knight here, although it would have been so much fun to get my knight here later. I think threatening this pawn is probably the best I have. This knight is still pinned, still can't move that knight, can't move this pawn. And at least this way we have threat of free candy. Puts the bishop here to stop the pin, so you can move that pawn. We just take the bishop, and after we take, or we could take this bishop, but I mean the pawn, but we take the bishop, he takes back the pawn. If the knight takes, he loses queen. So we still win some free candy because we love winning free candy. So the knight taking here first, the queen taking back, then the knight is allowed to take because the queen happen. But the bishop he takes back. Now it's our move, so then we get to still take the pawn. All right. So the knight took, and so we this is what we talked about. He could go in the other sequence. So now we take with the queen, and we're still attacking. It's not about remember this count is protected because of this pin. This pawn is not a protector, only this knight. So if we can get rid of this pawn is not a protector. So putting the bishop here, we just take this pawn still. Interesting. Okay. So this is right now free candy because I have 2 pieces attacking. He only has 1 protecting. And he ignored my offer of a sacrifice. And instead we have this situation. All right, so he puts the pawn in front. and I could take the pawn. So we're going to take the pawn. We want to try to maintain this, and he could throw another pawn away. And if he throws this pawn away, I could still take with the bishop. He could take with the knight. I could take his queen. He takes back the queen, and then I take his knight, and I will have won 2 pawns without any compensation, plus the pawn he let me take on my sacrifice over here earlier that he did not accept the sacrifice. So that would be a total of 3 pawns, 3 free candy that he will have given away. So don't know why. It might be because he's low on time, but he does get 5-second increments, so hopefully that will help. I definitely want feedback from you guys, what you think about this new layout and I moved the cat, I moved your chat. Okay, all right. So now that stops the pin. So now the pin is no longer there of that nature. I could come here, but he has many pieces attacking there, and I only have 1 protecting. I actually have 2 protecting. I, of course, can't take back with. But if I go here first, he takes with the knight. I could take with the pawn, but it doesn't do me any real good. So, unfortunately, I feel like my attack is kind of over. I would love to get my queen to attack that pawn. Don't think that's going to happen. I could push this pawn. That's almost always a good idea to keep the pressure going. And if I go there, what's interesting is his queen can come here with a check. That's all he gets. I don't see that he gets anything else out of that check. I would move away, and his queen, this would be a square his queen could go to. His queen could go here, because with my pawn here, my next pawn move could be here, and we'd be threatening nastiness. So, interesting. Is it worth it? It would pull his queen, give him an opportunity to get his queen into the game, but at the same time, I think I have the momentum. I think we can do that. Got to double check. So double check would be if I push here. What happens if he just chases my queen? Now my queen has to back out, which is okay. But why not just back out the queen first, maybe? Reposition the knight to here. Knight can come here, then back to here. The knight can still threaten to come here. I kind of like all of that, and there's no reason to rush into anything since my pieces are doing well, and I'm up a couple of pawns. All right, so we're going to play solid and just bring the queen back. Not going to even entice the queen to come here, get onto this file, and create free candy opportunities. That would be free candy opportunities. All right. So this again offers a queen bishop trade, and this time I'm going to take it. I didn't take it the first time because this time the pawn has losing a defender, and it doubles up those pawns. And I'm better on the clock, so we're going to go with that. Now this pawn is kind of weak, but again, my knight looks like a nice square for my knight eventually, but I don't have to rush into any of that. And we're going to go over here. I could use the other rook, or I couldn't use the other rook because this pawn needed to be protected. Pawn might still want to be protected for the long. Might have to leave it there. I could also go for a break in the center, getting rid of my doubled pawns. But that might activate his queen in short order, and I don't see any reason to do that either. This pawn is weak. No, it's only got 1 protector. No protectors, sorry. Has absolutely no protectors. Now I'm tempted to just put my queen here. This pawn gets to be pushed if he tries to fight on this file. And if he comes out to this file, then he's not attacking anything directly, and this rook can come here, and this pawn still can push. Okay, so looking at all that, do I want to go back to my idea of pushing the pawn? Yes, he could take, then the rook would take back, or the queen could take back, and while I would fix his double pawns, I still have 2 pawns against 1 for later. It feels good. It feels good. Check. We talked about the check over here. With that check, I would probably need to move. I could put the queen here, try to trade off queen. could put my rook here, because the queen attack this pawn doesn't work. I just put my here. You know what? Let's go this way. Free candy threat. Quick quick free candy threat. That's the name of the game today, is looking for free candy threats. Looking for free candy, looking for free candy threats. This is still a semi-open file. I still own the semi-open file. So let's play on the semi-open. All right, he gave away the free candy and moved his rook. Interesting place to move his rook because it's still in line with the king. This knight doesn't want to move. So we're going to take the free candy. That's right. That's what we said. We are looking for free candy today, taking free candy whenever I can, and hoping that my opponent doesn't miss free candy. This will definitely be the last game. We're over an hour. I could have went less than an hour if we stopped after 2 games. Thank you to Lemur for playing and Chess Wizard for playing. And thank you for LLMP almost playing. I talked to my older daughter, and what she had an idea for me was that the first lesson would be, okay, so this just leaves free candy here. Murph's getting under time trouble, and this is threatening free candy. So he has threatening free candy, but he's missing that this is free candy also. More importantly, it's pinned. Maybe not more importantly, but it's pinned. So he can't move the knight, and so this pawn is also free candy. So from my point of view, this is all the free candy on the board. We went from no free candy to 4 pieces of free candy at the same time. If I take the pawn, which you gotta like, right? Because that's attacking with the queen. It's check, so he can't take my rook, that free candy. He has choices, here or here. He only has 2 legal choices. So we gotta see if we can make hay out of these 2 legal choices. Let's see. So if my queen is here and his king is here, I get this check with the queen. He's only got 1 move, and then we have checkmate. That one works. So the only other one I have to check is if he goes here. Again, I'm here. His queen goes here. His king goes here. I can go here. Checkmate. So I think that settles for us, and we're going to take this way. So this is still free candy. This is still free candy, and this is still free candy. So we went here. I could rush and make the move, but we double check and say, yep, okay, that check is yes, he has no choice. And then we can pre-move checkmate because he has no choice. Right? So again, pre-moving a take is safer, and it's safest pre-moving a take back. So if I say, oh, if he takes my piece, I'm going to take back my piece, because the only way that pre-move will go through is if they actually did take that piece. Thank you again, Murph, for that game. We do a quick look at the analysis board. We can see if we went over it real quick, which we can save that for another time, but this is our last day of free candy, although we will talk about free candy again in the future because it's important for you to get used to identifying and avoiding taking when it's offered free candy. So what I would offer for Murph to do, and I might do it with him, is where you go over the game and you look for all the free candy that there is throughout. You're looking to see any time that free candy was left on the board that could have been taken. So starting at the beginning, there wasn't many opportunities for free candy, protected, and no free candy, no free, quick free candy, but immediately protected. No free candy, got to take. No free candy, no free candy. So no free candy, no free candy, no free candy. So this is really good, right? No free candy. We did find that I made an error later where, like right now, I believe it is. Yeah, moving back here was an error because he could have pushed here, and then I could choose. Here he has free candy. He has 2 knights attacking d4, so that would have been free candy. He takes, I take, he takes back. So if I tried to go here, he could just attack here and force me to either go here, right, and get the 2 pieces, or he could just go here and get the bishop for a pawn. And I would have ended up having to take here. And then the only interesting possibilities would have been if we went this whole route where this king would have been in an interesting situation if we get into this kind of an attack. Um, this would have been interesting, probably not good from black being down whole piece or 3 pawns though. Two pieces to 3 pawns. So Murph missed my blunder here. Murph missed just moving here to basically win free candy. But that's again the next level. That's the next level. So it's understandable he missed that because it's complicated to see that you could take away all these squares from that bishop. But that's the next level we'll be working at, where you start looking at pieces that look like they're in danger, and then can I win them somehow? But this lesson is only on free candy. So after that, I get to protect, and now we take. It is technically free candy because there's only one protecting, but I am giving up the exchange. So while it's also free candy, right? This one we'll call free. This one would be the exchange. We take, and Murph did not take back. And Murph didn't take back, just so if we want to go over it, because he was worried about the attack I might get. And the problem is he does have troubles because I'm threatening to come in here. And he has to find a way. His king can't move here. This is the beauty of this sacrifice that happens a lot. So he has to find a way out of this problem. We already took away the square from the knight. So he could do his own sacrifices possibly. But this is his problem. He's trying to, how do you defend against this? And this just doesn't work because it's just you just giving back the piece. All right. But anyway, so Murph said, nope, I'm not trading. And the problem is the pin is still on this piece. And now we just won a free pawn. So it became free candy at that point. So here we were threatening free candy. Nothing is protecting the knight. And the knight could go back to here and say, I was wrong. I should never went where I went. And then we have a pin, but that way the queen's protecting, or the knight itself can run away. Remember, if you're attacked, you could run away, take the piece, interpose, attack something of greater value. So Murph attacks the bishop. It's not free candy. There's two pieces protecting, only one attacking. So there is still no free candy. I went here. I would have loved to have had my knight here. And that's where I was saying before that. Instead of moving my bishop here, threatening that free candy, I could have went here, threatening that candy. And the rook really can't get here because it would lose the exchange. The king can't step up because of the knight and the bishop. And this pawn is attacked twice. And if we get this move, then we get to take with the bishop or with the knight. And I'm not even sure which one is best. If we take with the knight, pawn takes, we get to take with check. He gets to come here. If we take with the bishop first, he takes back, and then we attack the queen, which the queen gets to move with tempo on the knight. And so the knight has to move. Yeah, you could go here, but you're starting to get it trapped in the back end and don't know. So probably the bishop would have been a better way to. But none of that happened because I moved the bishop instead. So probably a better move would have been the knight. Definitely a more dynamic move, a more exciting move, a more fun move. But this worked out for me at least. Again, not the best, probably the best play. Knight here, there was no free candy. The bishop is protected. So we moved the knight. Again, free candy because of the absolute pin. Remember, absolute pins mean the thing that's pinned isn't in the game. All right. You're welcome, Murph. Thank you for playing with us. That's very helpful. I was trying to break the bishop attack. Yeah, and you did. I think we talked about it a little bit if you didn't catch it. You could have trapped my bishop, basically. You did a great job. I did a lousy job, and then you missed it, though. But you had it. All right, so we get the trade in this case, and now again, free candy. Only one piece protecting. The pawn is not protecting. Murph sees that. Well, interposes this move first, and this might have been a time crunch move. I'm going to guess because it's just free candy. I gave away free candy and then found yes, I can come here, get out of the pin. So therefore, this pawn is now playing, and this is where we said, I'd like to push this pawn, but I don't want to get into the tempo game. So I just backed up and said, play solid, you're ahead on pawns. Murph offered a exchange, no free candy. No free candy there. This one is only protected twice attack twice. So if either the knight or the king moves, the pawn would fall, but it's not free candy. Able to use this one, hoping for this kind of a move so that we can move here and then slide the other rook over and start an attack. But we got where Murph just ignored the pawn altogether. So he missed that. That's probably one of the first times I think that free candy was totally missed. No exchange, nothing, just free candy totally missed. And then Murph moved the rook, which makes this weak, not free candy at all. But so we took the free candy. And now the knight is pinned again. So now we're down to only one piece versus two attacking. And the one piece is the king. So the king can't even sacrifice himself. So now this is very, very, very much so free candy. So Murph has to realize that it wasn't free candy here because the knight is protecting. But now this is free candy because the knight can't move. And if Murph realizes that, then he would hopefully not allow me to take that free candy. But he has to see that the knight is pinned, so therefore this just became free candy. And that's what this whole lesson for the week has been about, noticing free candy. So, do I take the free candy or do I take this free candy? That is now, if you think about it up to this point, I haven't deeply calculated my settings because I probably used the knight on g4 instead of I did not look deeply